Welcome to Rico 12. I'm Justin B., your host and a child of an all-powerful and perfectly loving God, and an addict living in the miracle of recovery one day at a time. Rico 12 is an open to all addictions and afflictions organization dedicated to exploring the common threads of the differing manifestations of alcoholism, sharing tools and offering hope from those walking a similar path. We gather from diverse backgrounds, faiths, and locations to learn and support one another. Our speakers come from various fellowships and experiences, demonstrating the universal principles of recovery. Rico 12 is not allied or affiliated with any specific 12-step fellowship. This is Rico 12 speaker meeting number 355. Thank you for joining us live or on the recording later. Today's speaker is Father Bill W. He has spoken on Rico 12 5 times before, and I'm so grateful and excited to have him back again. He'll be speaking today, and we'll be doing a Q&A on a topic entitled The Power of Two-Way Prayer. I look forward to hearing more about this message in a few minutes, but first, a few quick announcements. Rico 12 offers a variety of recovery resources, including podcasts and social media communities. To explore more, visit www.rico12.com. That's RECO12.com. Or check the chat or the show notes in the podcast for those links. Rico 12 is self-supporting. Your contributions help us continue this message. Thank you so much to all of our spearhead donors, past and present, especially this last week to John and Shayna. Your support truly makes a difference. If you'd like to contribute, visit rico12.com/support. I've put links in the chat, and we'll do so, or in the show notes of the podcast for one-time or monthly donation options. Every bit of support, financial or through word of mouth, helps us share these messages of recovery and hope. Each week, we receive light and inspiration from our speakers and those guests who are here. Their experience brings hope, meaning, worth, and growth to us as listeners. Now I'm going to welcome today's guest, Father Bill W. Here's just a little bit about him, his bio that we've got here. Father Bill W. is a retired Episcopal priest, continuously sober and active in 12-step recovery since 1972. He has worked in the addiction treatment field most of his adult life and was the director of several nationally recognized treatment centers. For about 30 years now, he has researched and promoted the practice of two-way prayer through workshops, podcasts, and numerous articles and studies recently published in 2 major journals. Father Bill W. also recently released a book called The Power of Two-Way Prayer, Finding New Meaning in Addiction Recovery and Spiritual Growth. He was awarded the Johnson Institute's Wheelock Whitney Award for advancing the understanding of faith and science in addiction recovery. Father Bill's podcasts are listed under his name, Father Bill W., and his website is titled Two-Way Prayer. Father Bill, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here today. Why don't you take just a minute and introduce yourself just a little bit further from what I'd read in that bio?
Well, you did a pretty good job, Justin. One of the nicer introductions I've had. So you covered the bases. I've been in recovery for a long time, and I've been in the treatment field for a long time as well, and running treatment centers. Started off as a counselor, family counselor, all that good stuff, and I wasn't making any money there, and I had 3 kids to support. So it was like, well, you better move up the ladder there. So I did, and it's probably a tremendously rewarding field. And I've always been interested in the spiritual dimension of recovery. You know, how do you help people? Take Bill Wilson, for example. I mean, he had his spiritual experience in Towns Hospital, and he was convinced that if he could replicate that in vast numbers of people, the world would be well on its way to finding a solution to alcoholism. And I think he was right. And out of that stumbling and bumbling for a while came the program of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's a program that's intent on bringing about transformations in people. Now, I think there are, how would I put it? I was in AA for 20 years. And kind of going along doing okay. And I would say that I was doing sort of the traditional program, and it was enough to keep me sober. But in the prayer and meditation part, I wasn't doing real well. You know, in the beginning, when I was still smoking, I'd have my cup of coffee, my cigarette, read the 24-hour book, say a short prayer, God, keep me sober, something like that, and off I'd go. And tried doing different forms of meditation. I didn't find that my mind subscribed very well to those, suffer from monkey mind, this constant thinking. And so I tried the Eastern brand of things, and it works for some. It didn't work terribly well for me. At 20 years sober, I was looking for something more. I was ready for something more. I needed something more. I had committed myself to AA. This was my journey, my path. I wasn't going to leave, but I wasn't very content inside either. And that was when, through a number of interventions, let's say by God, I met an AA archivist in Oklahoma City who introduced me to the Oxford group. He had studied the Oxford group. He was a number of years more sober than I at the time we met, and I spent about 3 hours with him. And in the course of those 3 hours, I could sense that my life was being changed. I was hearing the steps, but I was hearing them in a different way, in the more original way. And they were much simpler than I had complicated them over the years. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think, for example, steps 2 and 3, initially those were done within a few minutes, and they were done one time. The guy asked me, did you do step 3? And I said, well, hell, I do it every day. And he said, no, 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 they didn't do it every day. They did it once, just one time. That's all you need to do it, And so what I came away from that encounter with him was a different version of the program, the more original version of the program. And then many things about the program started making more sense. So, but what really grabbed my attention was the form of prayer that they were doing. And it was part of a morning quiet time. And they called it two-way prayer or listening to God. I said, well, that sounds crazy, listening to God. What am I supposed to listen for? So I had some learning to do on that. I did learn it. I read all that I could on it. And wow, it was powerful. And then what happened after that? Well, I did it by myself for about 10 years. And then a guy called me. He had been a former patient of mine. He was an eye surgeon. And he was just kind of checking in on me. He said, what are you up to lately? And I said, well, I'm doing this crazy thing called two-way prayer. And he said, well, will you teach me how to do it? So I did. It's fairly simple. So I taught him. And I could see the change that he was undergoing quite rapidly. And my interest has always been working in the treatment field. How do you bring about quick change to people? I mean, these poor suffering alcoholics and addicts, they come into treatment and they want to change at some level. At another level, they don't want to change. They're double-minded, as the literature might say. So one part wants this, one part doesn't. So what I found was when they start listening to the God part within them, that does want them to change and that is there to give them the support and the guidance to change, as long as they're willing on their part to, kind of do their pull. It's not magic, quite rapid transformation can come about.
Hmm.
So I did that. And then I started teaching some other people. And a lot of people really took to it. The lazy ones, not so much.
Hmm.
The ones who wanted you to do the work, not so much. But the ones and this is where, I was 20 years sober and I was feeling flat and dry.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me ready. So people, you have to be ready in some way for this. And I find a lot of people 10, 15, 20 years sober are looking for more. And I also find people who have come back to the program, they've relapsed and they know it's there, but they can't quite get it.
Hmm.
Two-way prayer can be the ticket to what? To an experience of God that is personal and and intimate. See, I think we're searching for intimacy with the divine. We feel lost. We feel shut out. Cast out of the kingdom, if you want to use biblical expressions. I think that's what that story is trying to say. That there's something in us that isn't home. You follow me? It isn't home, and we feel that. And, I think alcoholics and addicts feel things more intently, perhaps, than do other people,
Hmm.
you know? And I was finding it in alcohol. I was finding it in food. I was finding it in work. I was finding it in all these places that seemed to promise it, but they really didn't deliver in the end. The thing that delivers in the end is the divine. So we've got to be in right relationship with that. And that doesn't mean
Yeah.
just saying a few prayers. It means entering into a relationship. Now, I don't know how you have a relationship with somebody who doesn't talk back to you. Good luck.
Yeah. So Bill, I'd like to jump in and ask you a question
Jump.
based on this. I know a little bit about your history. You studied with the Jesuits. You did some time working with the Salvation Army. You are a retired Episcopal priest. You have a lot of God in your history. But tell me about how that has evolved. You talked about I got to be in contact with the divine, build a relationship with the divine.
Yeah.
How has that evolved from your studies and your ordinations and all of the work you've done there? What is the difference between the God of those days and the God that you connect with today?
The difference is the distance from here to here, from here to here,
From head to heart, huh?
head to heart. I had it in my head. I could quote stuff and study stuff, but I wasn't experiencing the love of God. I wasn't. I was getting a lot of knowledge of God, most of which was probably wrong anyway. If you think you understand God, that is the one thing I would change in the program. It is not God as we understand Him. It's God as we don't understand God, because nobody understands God, but you can have an experience of God. See, and that is so. It's the relationship, the alignment. Let me use that word. It is the alignment between the ego and the greater self, the ego and the God concept. Uh, Whatever our best concept might be, I need to be living my life in alignment with that. And that's what the big book says, isn't it? God is the Father, we are His children. God's the director, we're the actors. It's trying to get that relationship right, so that what? So that there is a flow from the divine to the human. And that is the thing that satisfies. And when Carl Jung sent Roland, his patient, off in search of a spiritual experience, an encounter with the divine, that's what he was talking about. And he said, I've done as much for you as psychology can do. And I think the 12 steps, I mean, they're wonderful, but I think we wind up worshiping them. We make them holy, holy, holy. They're not meant to be holy, holy. They're meant to be a ladder. They're meant to be the journey that we take to bring us to what? To 12, having had originally a spiritual experience as the result of these steps. They changed it. Wilson said something nice that I thought was kind of funny. He said that we changed it because a bunch of people in Greenwich Village wanted a more tepid version of this process. So we changed it to an awakening. He wanted to change it back, and AA would not allow him to do that. We get very rigid in this thing, and very stuck in our ways. And that's the danger of religion. Religion can actually keep you from an experience of God. That's not an original thought of mine. It's like the priest will say, well, let me handle this. This is too holy for you. This is my job. You just come to the church, you pay your thing, you be a good little boy or girl, and you'll do fine. But it was the mystics. It was always the mystics who kind of, were looking for that direct encounter. They didn't want to go through something. They wanted to have it themselves. And I think alcoholics and addicts are that way too. I don't think we like to settle for leftover religion.
Yeah, and I think I've heard you say that you feel that a lot of alcoholics and addicts are, what do you say, misplaced mystics, or mystics that, haven't figured that out?
Misplaced mystics.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a mystical experience with alcohol at 12 years old. It took me to that fourth dimension. I was like, my God, where's this been all my life?
Yeah.
At 12. I was always searching for that thing, but I wasn't having an encounter with it. See, Wilson even, I don't want to scare off your folks here, but he experimented with LSD. He was saying, well, maybe this will do it. He was convinced that it is the experience of the divine that counteracts the alcoholism. And that's why the thing that I learned from the Oxford group and from the early days of AA was that prayer and meditation was more important than going to meetings. I'll never forget the day I read that. I said, my God, this is heresy. Prayer and meditation more important than meetings? Nobody told me do 90 meditations in 90 days. They didn't go there. So you keep coming back here. And I think that's important in the beginning. I really do. I don't think you give somebody a yoga mat on their first first time they're in an AA meeting. I don't go there. I think we're very sick puppies and we need that. But after a while, in my case, 20 years, I needed more.
Got questions about addiction, recovery, or just life in general? Let's noodle it out together. Grab your big book, a pen, a highlighter, and a notepad, and join Nikki M. and me, Justin B., on Rico 12 Noodle It Out with Nikki M. Each episode, we take real-life questions, ours, yours, and those from the recovery community, and dig deep into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous to find real, practical solutions. So, if you're ready to do the work and apply the solution, tune in to Noodle It Out with Nikki M, streaming now on your favorite podcast platform. So Bill, with that, you talked about, well, you know what? Let's actually get back to the nuts and bolts of this. I have a question from Jane. Jane says, I keep hearing about two-way prayer. Please, can you explain that further? Give us kind of the nuts and bolts. What is two-way prayer? What does that look like? And how does that process work?
Two-way prayer was part of a morning quiet time where the individual would spend approximately an hour if they could. Now, you might start off with 10 minutes, you might extend that to 15, but it's a period of time set aside for quiet, for prayers. And this is exactly what the big book says, isn't it? You know, if we have prayers that we've been supposed to say, we say them. We might pray for people. We read, a period of reading. Now, that's been reduced to reading's meditation books. I know a lot of people. I know one guy, he has 5 meditation books. He reads each little meditation each morning. And not my thing to him is, why the hell are you reading somebody else's meditations? Why aren't you doing your own? Why aren't you seeing what God has to say to you? So that's kind of the theory behind it, that they would spend time alone, listening for God's voice, bringing their problems to God, and then sitting there with pen and paper in hand and listening for the words that came. All right. Now, I've changed that a little bit. Is anybody on the call familiar with the 24-hour book? The AA's 24-hour book, little black book, it's been around for years. The meditations that are in there. You've got the thought for the day or whatever it is, which usually just talks about alcoholism or some problems. But then it's got the meditations of the day. And those meditations are the two-way prayer writings of 2 women in England who were members of the Oxford group. So what people would do is that they'd bring their problems to God. They would listen for the guidance that they would receive. And this is where steps, the preceding steps are important. We have step 2 and 3 where we surrender our life to God. We have steps 4 through 9 where we clean up the mess we've made of things, and that's important. This is not like you put a coin in and your answer is going to come out like a Chinese restaurant fortune cookie. It's not that. It's the willingness in you to seek the guidance that you need from the God who is within. What does the big book say? The great reality is within. Well, where do you think God is? He's in our minds. He's in our hearts and our minds. Not so much our livers. But maybe, I don't know. But certainly the mind and the heart. And so if I tune into these and bring these into alignment with God, well, how do you bring them into alignment with God? Well, they did it through the 4 absolutes. Absolute honesty. Am I living a life of absolute honesty? Or am I still lying and cheating and stealing? Absolute unselfishness. Is that all these made it into the book, didn't they? Huh? Absolute love, absolute purity. And that's not just sex, but it is sex too. Have I turned my sex life over to the care of God as we understood him? It's part of the package, But if I'm withholding stuff from God, watch out. I don't know that I should expect to be receiving guidance other than stop holding that out. It's time to let go of that one, Charlie. Let's move on. Let's grow up. You know? So,
You know, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, so I mean, that's basically the process. I've changed it a little bit. Uh, One of the things that I've put them because this was before there were steps, okay? And I think steps 10, 11, and 12 are key to living the guided life. 10, I love to kind of stir up stuff. You'll notice that about me. You know?
I'm all about pot stirrers. Stir away.
Yeah. I'm a something stirrer. There's an expression for that. I won't use it here. But always have been that way. Always been that way. Uh, they're the only steps I work today. See, they're the only steps I work, 10, 11, and 12. But every other step is contained within them. But if you keep doing this 12-step bouncy stuff, you're all over the map. Work 10, 11, and 12 and work them intently and intensely, and you'll get much greater results. So 10, you watch. What do you watch? You watch your life. Watch your life. That's why the silence is important. Are you feeling connected to God? Are you feeling connected to other people? Do you have meaning and purpose and direction in your life? Or are you feeling lost? Are you feeling cut off? Pay attention to that. All right, so watch. One of Bill Wilson's sponsees said something I really loved. He said, if we don't watch, step 10, we don't know what the hell to pray for. I thought that was brilliant. You don't just sit down and pray. Very nice. I mean, I guess there's nothing wrong with it, sit down and pray. Nice. But you don't know what the hell you're praying for. Sit down and watch. Sit down and see where you're separated. See who's on your resentment list. See how your own self-hatred is coming into play. Watch that stuff. Are you connected or am I not connected? To me, that's the question. To quote Hamlet, I guess.
Yeah. And I love this process. Now, I want to ask you, so we got 10 and 11. If I'm not watching, I don't know what the hell to pray about.
Right.
And then when I'm praying, if
I'm listening.
I'm listening. So I know what the hell to do in step 12, right?
That's right. Then you get to the action, and then it becomes, are you doing it or are you not? Which is going to be very interesting if you start doing this process. Sometimes you'll get guidance from God to do this, that, or the other thing. And what do? You blow it off. I always recommend people, when you sit down the next day, look at what you were asked to do the day before and ask, did you do it? I started putting a little box next to each one. All right. And if I had guidance to do this, to call Justin, or to read something, or to make an amend to my wife, or whatever it might be, did I do it? It might even be to just rake the leaves. It doesn't have to be a profound thing. What comes to mind? And I limit myself to 5 or 6 things. But then I take them as directives, and I do them. But listen, I do them differently. I do them connected. I do them out of obedience. I do them with a sense of meaning and purpose. I do them with a sense of I'm being God-directed in this. And I don't know why I'm doing it, necessarily. All I know is it came in my guidance, and I do it.
Can I share an experience that I had with this concept here? It was about 2 or 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my family had a family reunion type thing. We're at an Airbnb and we're getting ready to leave. And I had done my morning meditation. I'd done my 2-way prayer. And the guidance was basically be present with everybody there. Everybody in the home as you're getting ready to leave.
That's
be
a very
present.
important one. Right. Be present.
And be helpful.
Because you can skip out, can't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can't
And
we
I'm the
all?
person that, hey, we're supposed to be out of here by 11 o'clock. I'm out at in the car at 10:50 honking the horn saying, get out
And
here,
why aren't you lazy sons of gun out here too?
Exactly. And that's exactly where this was. I was doing the
Right.
dishes and I was looking around and everybody else was not doing stuff. And I'm just
Right.
angry, doing dishes,
Oh,
slamming the dishes down
Justin,
there,
poor baby. Yes, I
Yeah.
know. I
And
know
then
how that feels.
exactly. And then I went, holy cow, there's a lot of selfishness and resentment here. So I paused and I
Right.
breathed and I
Right.
said, God, what do I need to do here? I give it to you,
Right.
and what do I need to do? And the thought
Yep.
was, God says, do the dishes with me. I was like, you
Oh,
gonna join me here and do the dishes with me? He's like, yep.
yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
started doing, and next thing I know, I'm singing while I'm doing the dishes, and
Oh
God's
my
doing the
God.
dishes with me as I'm doing this happily, and everything changed. So what are
Yep.
your thoughts on that?
I don't need any thoughts. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. It's wonderful. It's experience. It's your experience. The hell
Hmm.
with the thoughts, Justin. We're killing ourselves with thoughts. You
Hmm.
know, it's your experience. Now
Hmm.
let's dig into that. You know, Justin was in charge. Justin's ego was inflated. Justin was running the show, and people were not cooperating. And you were pissed.
Yes, I was.
All right. And then you prayed, but you prayed meaningfully. You asked for guidance and direction, and and you got it. You got it, and which is good. And then you did it. You know. So I mean, there's the thing, and you were happy, joyous, and free, washing the dishes.
And it happened really quickly.
And isn't that the truth?
Hmm.
Bill
Yeah.
Wilson was asked, this is an important thing, at least it was for me. He was asked, hey, if these four absolutes are so important, where did you put them in your steps? And he said, I put them in steps 6 and 7. Opened those steps up for me in a wholly new way. Entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. We all got them.
This is
Humbly
good.
asked that they be removed. And like you said, quickly, they are.
Hey, Spearheads, if you're looking to dive deeper into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with people who live the solution, then you won't want to miss Rico 12 Big Book Roundtable. Join David G., Nikki M., and me, the moderator Justin B., 3 recovered addicts from multiple fellowships, as we break down the big book line by line. In each 30-minute episode, we share our experience, strength, and hope in a real, raw, and practical roundtable discussion. So, if you are ready to learn and apply what you learn, tune in to Rico 12 Big Book Roundtable on your favorite podcast platform. Yeah. And I think that when I'm serious about it and I'm sincere, I think that's the word, not serious, but sincere,
Right.
it happens so quickly.
So
Now, I
quickly.
may be back in the same spot 10 minutes from now, but I can do it
I can
again.
do it in under that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can be there in 5 seconds.
Yeah. That's good. So Bill, I've got a couple of questions that have come in from the live audience. Danya says, can you please talk about the visions that have come when we have that some have had when
Yeah.
they've been practicing two-way prayer? So these mystical experiences.
Visions. Wilson had a vision, didn't he? He said he was as if he was standing on a mountaintop and a wind of spirit, not of air, was blowing all around him. That's a vision. That's a vision. You know, you may find yourself in a very tranquil scene. Um, you may hear a voice, or you may see something. Now, where is it? If people, well, is that real? Well, yes, it's a different dimension of reality, It's the fourth dimension of reality, you know? But that's what I was looking for in the bottle, was that fourth dimension of reality. Now I'm finding it through prayer. And are visions a part of that? Yes. Are encounters with God, you're using the imagination. Now let me throw one thing. Anybody a worrier in this group? Anybody thoughts come into your mind about I need to worry about this? It's very interesting. I don't question those thoughts. Where are you coming from? Oh, you little worry thought, get the hell out of here. How did you show up here? But when the God thought comes up, oh, now this is different. This is very different. I allow worry in, I allow horniness in, I allow all sorts of things to freely enter my mind. God, you stay out.
Uh,
You stay out. You know? So, I mean, these are things that typically we don't talk about. They're very personal. This kind of intimacy and experiences, they're very personal. Uh, they don't get discussed very much in meetings. And yet, if you do probe, you'd be surprised at how many people have had examples of this, experiences of this. I mean, it may not have been mind blowing, but it was a sense of a presence. Bill Wilson, he wrote or he dictated an autobiography. It only did 40 years of his life. It's too bad it didn't continue, but it's the first 40 years is the name of the book. Hazelden put it out. And in there, he talks about spiritual experiences. And he lists 3 or 4 that he had before Towns Hospital. Before Towns Hospital. Just where you kind of rub it, you're at a sunset and your ego is blown away and it's subdued. I'm pretty talented, but I can't do a sunset. Can't do a sunset. And so in the presence of the sunset, your ego is right sized, let us say. And somewhere deep inside you want to say, nice work, God. I like that was a good one. And you're in the presence, and I suspect God likes that too. Oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah, I'm kind of proud of that one. Yeah.
I had one of those moments just last night. I was driving home. I had some really late meetings that I was at, and
Yeah.
driving home, and I was exhausted and tired and a little bit heavy. I was weighed down from those meetings.
Right.
And as I'm driving down the road, there's a full moon in the sky, and the moon was like a yellow orange in color. And I
Yeah.
just looked at that and I said, beautiful, God. That is beautiful. And it just
Yeah.
lifted me, and it's one of those moments that it's simple, but I can't do that.
No. And you were transformed temporarily by that experience.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. The load became lighter for those few moments as I did
Right.
that.
Exactly. Well put. Well put.
Yeah.
That's
Good.
it.
So I have a testimonial that came in from our audience. I'll read it real quick and ask for your thoughts on this.
Okay.
Catherine says 43 years in and out and back in A&A. There was always something missing in the 4 years I've been back. I've been doing two-way prayer and also worked steps 10, 11, and 12. The turmoil has calmed down to a point of sanity. Two-way prayer has restored both sanity and sobriety because with God, all things are possible. I
Right.
love that testimonial.
No, I love it. Thank you, Catherine. Beautiful. Beautiful.
You're
Yeah.
so
Can I go
very
home now? Can I
welcome.
go
Thank
home?
you for
Can
all
I go
you do.
home?
Yeah.
I'm done.
Good. You're done. Yep.
I'm done. It's
Work
down here
done.
for you.
Work
Turn it
done.
over to Catherine. She can take it from here.
Yeah. What do you have to say, Bill, about so Cherie says I've heard a two-way prayer, but never wanted to try it, but I'm interested now. What do you have to say to the person who is like, you know what, that just sounds a little bit kooky out there praying and listening for some sort of voice or thought to come back? That seems kooky. What do you have to say to those people that have those thoughts?
Well, what I say is this process did not come out of California. This is not some new age crystal kind of encounter. It's steeped in our history. So if you're in a 12-step program, this is part of your heritage. And they hid it from us. They hid it from us. Why? Because Wilson didn't want to have it his new AA, which was just getting going when he wrote the big book, you know, he didn't want to have it associated with the Oxford group. He wanted it to be separate. And if he did too much on two-way prayer and listening for God's guidance and following that, people would read and say, "Oh, that's Oxford group." So in the big book sections where it talks about step 11, prayer and meditation part, the seeds of this are there. We will intuitively know. Our thought life will be placed on a higher plane. How do you know if it's placed on a higher plane? Is the thought that came honest? Is it pure? Is it unselfish? Is it loving? What Dr. Bob said is, if it is, it can't be too far from God. It can't be too far. You know, so he practiced it all of his life. Let me read a few two-way prayers. I think there's nothing better than to hear it firsthand, to get an experience of what this practice is really like. This this is a woman. She was in an alcohol and drug treatment center. I did a study of I won't go into all the details, but 4 different treatment centers. We did about 130 people and tested them and pre-tested, post-tested them, taught them how to do the practice. So here's this one young woman. She's about 10 days to 2 weeks sober. Here's her question. Here's her step 10, we might say, hey? God, why can't I stay sober? She'd been in treatment 4 times. All right? Why can't I stay sober? It's a good question. What does the voice say? So I say, use your imagination. If the voice were to speak to you, start off with a term of endearment. Kind of gets the juices running, you see. My precious, my darling daughter, my beautiful young girl. All right? So you put those words into God's mouth and let them come into your heart. All right? And then let your imagination go. Now, some people say, well, that's just imagination. And I said, well, you just start that and watch. And after, when you read it, when you're done, you might look at a sentence here and a sentence there and say, where did that one come from? I may have started it, but something took over. All right? And that's what I'm trying to get in touch with. So, God, why can't I stay sober? My child, you can. I know you can. But you must trust me. You are not hopeless. The drugs are killing you. You need to change the places you go and the people around you. Don't belittle yourself. All the destructive behavior. Take time to love yourself as I do. Love yourself first and foremost. There is light. Trust us. That was her first experience with two-way prayer. And what happened there? She made a conscious contact with the divine, and perhaps an unconscious contact with the divine, which is even better, you know?
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful.
Here's another one, Heavenly Father. This is one of my favorites. I've used this one a lot because I love it. It's a woman in her 50s in AA for a while, quite a while, and also with an eating disorder. All right? She writes, Heavenly Father, I've been struggling with self-loathing. Anybody out there struggled with self-loathing? I sure as hell have. I look in the mirror and I hate who I see. I feel so unattractive and at my core unlovable. Please help me, Father. The voice, my precious child. It saddens me to see you hurting so. You are loved more than you could ever know. I've watched you go through losses these last few years, especially the loss of your grandson. She suffered. She suffered deep pain. My sweet daughter, come to me. I am real and I am safe. Nourish your body, don't starve it. Speak only love to yourself. Treat others as you wish they would treat you. Do these things, and the light of my deep and endless love will fill you up and shine onto others. Go now, I am with you. Hell of a way to start your day, isn't it? Not so tough to look in the mirror after that. You see? Why? Because I'm looking now through God's eyes and I'm tapping into God's strength. You see? And God's doing for me what I cannot do for myself. And that's what the connection is. And that's what I'm trying to do through this process rather than call my sponsor. I'm not against it, I'm not against it. But, if you're 40 years sober and you're filthy, oh my God, I got to go call my sponsor. You've missed something along the line, so grow up. This is to teach us how to be free and how to be mature and how to, this is an important point, how to be the person you are intended to be. Because that's what we're missing, you see. That's what we're missing. And so when you sit down to do your step 10, that's what you're kind of looking at. Am I being all that I could be? Was I that yesterday or was I not? Am I that right now? Or am I feeling something different? What's going on inside? Got to go inside. Got to go inside.
Mm. No, those are some beautiful examples, and thank you for going through those with us.
Yeah.
And this last one you did touched on this a little bit, but I have an anonymous question from our audience here.
Okay.
This person says, "How do I find prayer and God in tragedy and grief when I've just had terrible
Yes.
things happen?"
Yes, that's the question. That's the question. Be as honest as you can be with that. That is the question. And see what comes. See what comes. But don't doll it up. I'm deeply, deeply touched. I live here in Texas. And these 20 young girls at camp washed away, swiped away. It strikes you, We don't say we do part of the serenity prayer. We don't do the second half of the serenity prayer. And I've added a word to that. Taking this sinful and broken world as it is, not as we would have it, trusting you that you will make all things right if we surrender to your will. So we'll be reasonably happy in this life. I tell you a book that really helped me in my, because this is a deep question for me. For me, it is. I mean, I was very skeptical of this God stuff. If he's, how does he let this kind of pain happen? And the book that was most helpful to me was, what's his name? A concentration camp. Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl's book. Here's this Jewish psychiatrist in a concentration camp. His wife is killed. His parents are killed. Everybody around him is dying. And out of that experience, which was tougher than what I was going through. See, that's why it was important for me. It was tougher than what I was going through. He found meaning and purpose in suffering, in the suffering in the world. I knew a woman in Detroit. I got sober in Detroit. She was an African-American woman, beautiful, beautiful woman. 2 daughters died in a fire. Her only 2 daughters died. and she was happy and joyous. And I said, how did you do it? She said, oh, Bill, I now have 100 daughters. And she was the mother of AA in that community. She had overcome it. Did it hurt? Did it rip her heart out? Absolutely. But did she despair, or did she find hope and meaning in her life? See, I was asking the wrong question. I think this is from Frankl. It is from Frankl, I'm sure. He says, we ask the wrong question. We say, what is the meaning of life? He says, you'll never answer that question. The question you can answer is, what is the meaning of my life? It's a very different question. And someone who has suffered deeply, deeply, they have to answer that. And if they can't answer it and they go under, I understand that. I understand that. God must know I'm an awful wuss. The things I've had to suffer. Give me a break. The people I've worked with over the years, 1,000 times more. But so many of them, particularly ones in the program, are able to come through them. They're able to come through them. And what's the expression? What doesn't kill me makes me stronger.
Yeah.
Good will come from it. Good will come from it. Not that it was good what happened. It wasn't good. It's not good. It's a broken world.
Yeah.
It's a broken
Beauty
world.
from ashes, taking the sinful and broken world as it is, as I would have it. Beautiful. Have a couple more questions here for you. One of them comes from Catherine. Someone mentioned that two-way pursuing magical, and the definition of magic, according to this person, is the art of deception causing someone to believe what does not exist. Define the difference between magical and spiritual, or your experience with two-way prayer.
Mystical.
Yeah.
I hate magic. I was some friend of mine. She was very much into magic, and she wanted me to go upstate Texas somewhere, and some healer was in from the Philippines, and he was a psychic surgeon, and he would lay the person down, and without cutting them, he would go into their body and pull out something that looked like a chicken liver. And I said to my wife, this is bullshit, And the guy, somebody here doesn't believe. Well, count me as one of those people. That's magic. I don't believe in magic. Magic is a trick. Mystery and mystical is not a trick. It's the deepest reality. And that's when I enter into this fourth dimension, or the fourth dimension enters into me. And those are moments that are transformational. And that should be the work of religion. It should be the work of 12-step. But I had a sponsor who he had a wonderful phrase. He said, Bill, most of the people you're going to meet in AA have settled for a limited conversion. I love the phrase, a limited conversion. Meaning what? They'd gone just so far. And then they stopped there. They stopped. But I've met some people in the program who've gone much, much farther than I. They're inspirational to me. They give me hope. I draw strength from them. I've inched closer to them in some ways, I'm very grateful for that.
Oh, this is beautiful. So I'd like to take the last couple of minutes, allow you to take the last couple of minutes, share with us a little bit about this book that you've written and why you wrote it and what you're doing with it. Hey, Rico 12 Spearheads. If our recovery resources have helped you, please consider a donation. Your financial support, as well as your word of mouth support, keeps Rico 12 running and reaching the man who is still sick. Donate today at rico12.com/support or check the show notes for PayPal and Venmo links. Every contribution helps carry the message. Thanks for being a Rico 12 Spearhead.
Why did I write it? Because they told me there's one more thing that's needed, and that's a book. I'm coming up on 80 years old this November, and I was truly changed by two-way prayer. I knew it had important components in it that could really help people in 12-step recovery. So, I started doing workshops on it years ago. When COVID came along, I was doing one every month, and we'd have 300 to 500 people on those things. And they were beautiful. They were beautiful because people would always get an opportunity to share their two-way prayers that they would do on the spot. And you'd be blown away. You'd be blown away by what they came. First time out of the chute. And it's wonderful. But I got awfully tired of doing those. And so, I did a video. I did a video on it. So here's a video. You watch this for 40 minutes, and then I don't have to do the damn workshop, So I pretty much stopped doing those. And then they said, meetings. That's where I met Justin. I experimented doing meetings. I ran that for about 3 or 4 years. And people came, learned the process. It's very easy to learn. And then they would come and share their two-way prayers. And Justin, did you not get really close to some of those people in that group?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sharing is very intimate material. And that's why, groups need to be kept small and personal. I'm not going to spill my guts with 50 or 100 people out there. It's difficult. It's difficult. But when you really trust a group, you're gonna venture going deeper and deeper and deeper, and sharing the pain, the confusion, the belief, help my unbelief. All of that sort of stuff. I forget the question now. What was the question?
I think you covered it. Why did you write the book, and what are you doing with it?
Why the book? Well, it started off as a pamphlet. I was going to do, here's one more thing. I want to leave a trail. If people want to follow it, here it is. So I started it off as maybe a 30-page pamphlet. And it just kind of kept going deeper and deeper, and turned out to be a book. It's my first one and my last one. But I've done what I was guided to do. And this is very important. See, I was guided going back many years that what God is asking of me is to bring two-way prayer to people in 12-step fellowships. All right, not to the church, not to Christians, not to those folks. Those are not my people. You guys are my people. Bring this to this group and get them to take another look at the four absolutes. I can't tell you how many times that has come up in my two-way prayer, to the point where it's no longer a question. What's God's will for me? It was to do this work, and I've done the work. I mean, I've gotten it out there, and now it's up to other people. Some point, Justin, you and I are just going to settle back and do the dishes and do them peacefully. You know what I mean? And stop being pissed that those other people aren't in here helping.
Absolutely. This is good stuff. And there have been a couple more questions. Father Bill, if people have a question for you or want to get in touch with you, are you okay if they contact me and I can get them in contact with you through your email?
Yes, but first you have to ask God what your question is, and then you send me the answer. So I don't answer questions, I redirect people to God. So
awesome.
if you have a questionable answer, I'm happy to look at it.
Okay, I love that. I love that. We got to wrap this up here in the next couple of minutes. I'll do a closing reading, and then we'll get you to give us that prayer that you're preparing there. Thank you, Father Bill, for an amazing Rico 12 speaker meeting.
Never stop making us work, Justin.
I'll never stop making
Bring
it
a
work.
prayer.
Absolutely. Bring a prayer. Exactly. Like I said, if you have questions, send them to rico12pod@gmail.com. Jump in on our WhatsApp community. Ask them there. We as a community are happy. We're quite active recently in answering people's questions. Jump in there and do that. If you haven't yet, please consider rating and reviewing the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It does help us get that message out to more people out there. Get this two-way prayer message out to more people. It is a game changer for me. And I'm so grateful that Father Bill has taught me that, and I continue to practice it daily. Good. Next Friday, we'll hear from Karis D., who previously spoke on meeting 285. Her topic will be tools of the program. I look forward to hearing from her there. Let's wrap up with a prayer that Father Bill W. will say for us.
This is from a book by Stephen Mitchell. And it's a book of Psalms. But it's a very modern version, kind of takes the meaning of them and puts them in modern day language. So this is Psalm 130, portion of it. Eh? Out of the depths, Lord, I call to you. Let me feel you even in this darkness. Take away my affliction, or give me the strength to endure. If all our mistakes were indelible, which of us could survive? But you have forgiven us, even when we cannot forgive ourselves. Slap an amen on that.
Amen on that, absolutely. Thank you so much. Everybody, keep coming back. Remember, there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find God now. Connect with God. Listen to God. Do what you're asked to do, and keep coming back. And when you do, come all the way in, sit all the way down. Let's trudge this road of happy destiny together. Work it. You are worth it.
Standing still a moment, carving out this time, reflecting on the landscape of this life of mine. Peaks too high to conquer, streams too wide to cross, troughs too deep to walk through without incurring loss. Yet here I am, still standing tall, despite the rough terrain. One like me survived the storms and walked through wind and rain. Still standing, I will fight the good fight, still searching